Hi, I'm Riley and I'm 26 years old. I recently got married to the love of my life, but it wasn't without some drama. Let me explain what happened. I met David when I was doing a part-time job at a firm to complete my internship for my degree. Both of us were interning at the same place, and we often worked on the same projects. That's how we started talking. Soon we began meeting outside of work at cafes and movie theaters. We went on several dates before making our relationship official. David was studying at a college in a different state, but his hometown was the same as mine. He was in town because he had a semester off for his internship and chose to do it in our hometown. I was so glad he made that choice because I got to meet such an amazing man. David and I shared a love for many things, and we bonded over that. When it was time for David to go back to college, we were both heartbroken. I remember him being at my place the night before he left, and we just cried in each other's arms. David didn't want to leave me either. I made him promise to stay in touch every day, and he did. We both promised to take care of our health and to visit each other whenever we have free time. We spent the rest of that night making promises and holding each other close. After David left, we kept all our promises. Whenever one of us had a long break, we would fly to see each other. We talked on the phone for hours every day and kept each other updated on everything. That's how we kept our relationship strong. After a year of dating, we introduced each other to our families. My family welcomed David with open arms and loved how happy he made me. They had no problem considering him a part of the family. However, David's family was harder to win over. David's family was pretty conservative and didn't like the idea of their children dating while they were still in school, but they agreed to meet me anyway. At first, it was a bit awkward, but eventually, David's dad and siblings warmed up to me. The only one who didn't was David's mother, Greta. Greta was cold to me from the moment I arrived until the moment I left that weekend. She found every chance to make rude comments about me, mocking my choice of school and my interests. On my first night there during dinner, Greta even insulted my family's social standing. I was really upset when she said those things about my parents, and the rest of the table was shocked. David stood up for me though. "Mom, you're not allowed to talk to Riley so rudely," he said. Greta brushed it off. "Relax, I'm just stating facts." "Those facts are hurtful and untrue," David replied. "Well, maybe there's some truth to them since she didn't choose the better school. Riley's choices are not yours to judge. You owe her an apology." "Oh, please." "Fine, sorry, whatever." "That's not sincere, Mom. Apologize properly." "Sorry, Riley." "Thank you." David then told his mom, "Treat Riley with respect, or you won't be a part of our lives." After that, dinner continued, but it was still very awkward. I was hurt and upset by how David's mother treated me. She didn't even know me, and yet she was so harsh. I knew I didn't choose the most prestigious school, but that was because I wanted to stay close to home and be with my family. My parents could afford to send me to a better school, but I chose to stay. I loved that David stood up for me, especially against his own mother. It showed me that I would always be his number one, and that made me love him even more. When we were about to leave David's place that evening, his dad, Peter, apologized to me for his wife's behavior. "I'm truly sorry for Greta's behavior, Riley," Peter said. "You don't need to apologize for her, Peter," I replied. "Greta is just overprotective of David, you see." "I understand that feeling. My family is protective too. But does that mean they treated David the same way?" I asked. "Oh no, I'm sorry if I gave that impression. We're just protective of each other. The last thing they wanted was for one of us to get hurt, so they were cautious when someone new came into our lives, but once they saw how happy the person made us, they became more welcoming," Peter explained. "So, did your family welcome David warmly?" I asked. "Absolutely. They embraced him because they could see how happy he made me over the past year." "I'm glad he found a place in your family," Peter said. "Your family is different, and that's okay. I'm pretty good at adjusting to new dynamics." "I'm still sorry Greta hasn't been as welcoming," Peter said. "It's all right. I'm sure she'll come around with time," I reassured him. "I have to say I love your enthusiasm," Peter smiled. "Thank you. I believe she'll change her perspective eventually." "I like your positivity. I truly hope Greta warms up to you," Peter said. That conversation with Peter made me feel more welcome in David's family. I knew it might take a while for Greta to accept me, but I was willing to wait because David was worth it. David also made sure to remind me that his mother's opinions never reflected how he felt about me. I was so grateful for David and glad he had my back, no matter what. As the years passed, David and I both graduated, and he moved back to our hometown. We moved in together and were so happy to finally spend all our time together, now that we weren't in a long-distance relationship. We went on frequent dates, and when we couldn't, we enjoyed long evening walks. We were inseparable. So it was no surprise when during one of our evening walks, David got down on one knee and asked me to marry him. I was overjoyed and said yes through tears of happiness, and so began the next few tiring months of wedding planning. People often say that the months leading up to the wedding are the most stressful and constrain a relationship, but for us, the stress actually brought us closer together. The only obstacle was, as you might guess, David's mother, Greta. Greta insisted on being involved in every detail of the wedding. She needed to know about everything, down to the color of the tablecloths. She would call me every day at 8 a.m. sharp to ask about my plans for the day. I'd tell her the same thing every day, work. Then she'd ask about the wedding plans, and I'd remind her that while the wedding was important, I still needed to work to afford it. Greta would huff and tell me to take the wedding more seriously. At first, her comments annoyed me, but over time I learned to let them slide. I'd just say yes, and she'd make me promise to involve her in everything related to the wedding. I'd roll my eyes and agree but didn't actually involve her. After a while, I started feeling bad for not including Greta, so I talked to David about it. I feel bad for not involving Greta. I know her calls are annoying, but involving her might help my relationship with her, right? I asked David. Honestly, I doubt it, my love, David replied. What do you mean? I asked. She has this need to control everything, to the point where it could actually ruin the occasion, David explained. I see. Maybe we could let her help out with just a small part of the planning, I suggested. I know how you feel. You could let her help with something small, but don't get your hopes up. I'll keep my fingers crossed that she'll appreciate the chance and treat me well, I said. Just remembered, David started to say. I've got your back no matter what, David reassured me. Thanks, babe. Let's hope for the best, I replied. I decided to let Greta help me pick out the cake for the wedding. I made it clear that while she could offer suggestions, I wasn't obligated to follow them. Greta agreed and told me not to worry. But when the day came to visit different vendors, Greta completely ignored my wishes. She made a big fuss about everything, from the appearance of the stores to the prices. She purposely criticized everything I liked and tried to haggle with the vendors. I was beyond embarrassed by her behavior, but out of respect for her being my future mother-in-law, I kept quiet. I knew David wouldn't have minded if I spoke up, but I decided to cut the day short instead. I told Greta I had urgent work to attend to, and that we could meet up later to finalize the cake details. I left before she could accuse me of not taking the wedding seriously because I'd had enough of her for the week. When David got home from work, he took one look at me and started laughing. Through his laughter, he asked, "So, how was your day with Mom?" "Oh, you have no idea. She embarrassed me the entire time," I replied. "Really? That's bad," David said, concerned. "Yeah. Bad enough that I think we need new vendors now." "See, I knew involving her was risky," he said, shaking his head. "I was just trying to make things better between us," I admitted. "My love, I'm going to remind you again that my mom's behavior doesn't define our relationship. I love you no matter what. Thanks, darling. Maybe I won't involve Greta anymore. Sounds like a plan." And so the rest of the months leading up to the wedding went on as before, with Greta continuing to ask to be involved. I kept making excuses to keep her at a distance. Eventually, David stepped in. "Mom, we want to plan our wedding ourselves, without anyone else's input," he told her. "How could you manage such an important day on your own?" she asked, shocked. "Well, I'm not the only one planning the wedding. Riley is involved too," David explained. "She must be the one pushing you to exclude me." "I'm telling you, she's not good for you," Greta insisted. "No, listen. I was the one who suggested not involving you. In fact, Riley was the one who asked me to give you a chance. You need to stop blaming her. You wanted to exclude me. How could you do this to your own mother?" Greta said, hurt. "Mom, I didn't want to hurt you. We both just wish you'd respect our decisions. You're pushing me away for her sake," she accused. "No, I'm asking for your understanding. Riley and I want to plan our dream wedding together. We really don't need any help. Fine, but I've always wanted the best for you, Greta said, relenting. We know, Mom, but we need your support, not your control, David said gently. I just worry about you, David, she said, softening. We appreciate that, but please, for my sake, respect our wishes, David replied. After that conversation, Greta stopped contacting us as much. I felt so relieved to not have to deal with her. David and I were finally able to fully focus on planning our wedding. When the big day arrived, I was a bundle of nerves and excitement. I was thrilled to finally marry the love of my life, and I desperately hoped everything would go smoothly. The ceremony went off without a hitch, and David and I were legally married. We were over the moon and couldn't wait to celebrate with drinks and dancing at the reception. However, things didn't go as smoothly as I had hoped. The reception started off well, but at some point, Greta had one drink too many. She ended up getting really drunk and caused a massive scene. She grabbed hold of me and loudly declared that she would never accept me as part of her family. I squirmed uncomfortably as I tried to free myself from Greta's strong grip. David, on the other hand, was furious. Mom, let go of Riley, he demanded. Oh, David, I've always known what's best for you. She's not right for you, Greta insisted. I've had enough of your behavior. Leave now, David replied, his voice firm. You won't throw your own mother out of your wedding, Greta protested. I'm dead serious. I won't tolerate any disrespect toward my wife, David declared. Peter, David's father, walked over and asked, What's going on here? Mom came over just to humiliate and insult Riley. I want her to leave. I won't have her treat Riley this way, David explained. What is wrong with you? I'm just being honest, Greta defended herself. Honesty doesn't give you the right to humiliate or insult us. I don't want to be associated with that, David replied sternly. Greta, let go, Peter said firmly. You can't be serious, Greta responded, shocked. Peter calmly said, Enjoy the rest of your evening and congratulations again, before walking away. I was very upset by the scene Greta had caused, but what upset me even more was that Peter couldn't enjoy the day with us. Still, the party carried on, and the day remained memorable for David and me. A couple of weeks later, David and I were buzzing with excitement as we prepared for our honeymoon to Italy. Visiting Italy was on both of our bucket lists, and we wanted our honeymoon to be as romantic as possible. We waited impatiently for the day to travel. Finally, when the day arrived, David and I frantically made sure we had all our passports and luggage together. Just as we were about to leave for the airport, our doorbell rang. We looked at each other in confusion because we didn't know who would come to our place that early in the morning. When we opened the door, we were shocked to see Greta standing there with her bag packed and her passport in hand. David looked at his mother angrily. What are you doing here, Mom? He asked. What do you mean? Quit playing dumb, Greta replied. Oh, I just thought I'd join you on your holiday. This isn't a holiday, and you know it. How did you even know about our honeymoon dates? David demanded. You logged into your email on my laptop once and forgot to log out, Greta explained. When was this? College, maybe? I can't remember, David said, surprised. You've been keeping tabs on him since college? You're insane, I exclaimed. I'm not insane. A concerned mother looks out for her son. And why on earth would you want to come on our honeymoon? I asked, still in disbelief. I won't rest until I show David you're not good enough, Greta insisted. That's enough. Leave, David said firmly. I'm not leaving, Greta replied stubbornly. David was seething with anger. I held his arm to calm him down. He then looked at me and smirked. What's your plan? I asked. If my mother wants to sabotage us, let's play her own game, David said with a grin. I don't get it. What do you mean? I asked, confused. Remember our cop costumes from last Halloween? David asked. Yeah, why? I replied. Where are they? He asked eagerly. They're in the box on top of the wardrobe, I answered. Perfect, David said, then rushed into the bedroom. I stood awkwardly with Greta in the doorway. She smirked at me, thinking she had won. I heard David rummaging around in the bedroom before finally emerging with our luggage. He asked both of us if we were ready to leave. We nodded and Greta walked with a spring in her step. David was insistent on helping his mother with her bags. While loading Greta's bag into the car, I noticed David slipping something into it. David looked at me and winked. I was confused but couldn't help but feel a rush of excitement. David insisted that I drive the entire way to the airport. David remained on his phone, but that didn't stop Greta from talking about how excited she was to spend quality time with David and how they had never had a mother-son vacation. I felt very uncomfortable, while David just ignored everything his mother was saying. When we made it to the airport, we arrived just in time to check in. While David and my luggage checked in smoothly, Greta's bag began beeping in the machine. The TSA made her empty out her carry-on bag. Inside was a book that looked like it had something hidden in it. Now, just to set the scene, there was a large line of people both behind and beside her, all impatient but also curious. Everyone looked at Greta. The TSA officer pulled out the book, and the title was How to Spice Up Your Life in the Bedroom. Inside the book was a pair of handcuffs. I couldn't stop the snicker that escaped me. I immediately recognized the items. The handcuffs were from our Halloween costumes last year, and the book was a gag gift given to David by his friends at his bachelor party. Greta's face turned bright red from the embarrassment. The TSA agent looked at her with a raised brow, while the people around her began snickering and whispering among themselves. Just then, an announcement came through requesting David and me to board our plane. I looked at David in shock. He told me that he had managed to find a flight that was leaving an hour earlier than our original one, and since it was the same airline, they were happy to accommodate the change in time. I let out a full laugh at how everything had turned out. Greta hurriedly tried to stuff the contents of her bag back in, while David and I rushed to our boarding gate. Greta watched in horror as we boarded the plane. She looked angry and embarrassed. She tried to call David, but he let it go to voicemail. David and I enjoyed our honeymoon. Every so often we would remember Greta's face in the airport and burst out laughing. When we came back, David cut off all contact with Greta. We still kept in touch with Peter and even invited him over for dinner one day to share the story. He burst out laughing too and agreed that Greta deserved it. Greta kept trying to approach us, but we never acknowledged or entertained her. The airport incident became a cherished memory for us, one we will definitely recount to friends and family for years to come. Our home is filled with laughter, love, and inside jokes, with the handcuff incident remaining a hilarious testament to our ability to weather storms together. This incident is a reminder that no matter the circumstances, David and I will always find a way to stand by each other, laugh together, and overcome any obstacles that come our way. Our journey continues, full of love and laughter, tied by an unbreakable bond that will remain strong throughout the years.